Hey, how you doing? Mr. H here with you. It's Friday, and it seemed like a fast week, didn't it? If it didn't seem like a fast week, I'll duck, just to make sure you're not throwing anything at me. Welcome to Planet Earth, man. How you guys doing? Now, we made it to the end of the week. We're plunging into the weekend, and all sorts of great stuff to talk about. I was watching the news, and yeah, I really think we need drug tests for NATO members. Usually I don't get into current events, but this just sort of jumped out at me. So our friend Emmanuel Macron, yep, the guy running France, said there was no consensus about not sending Western forces to Ukraine. As you know, Russia and Ukraine have a war going on. Listen to what he just said. There's no consensus about not sending Western forces to Ukraine. So he's suggesting that French soldiers, at least, are in Ukraine fighting against the Russians. Okay, what happened last time the French went to Russia? It didn't work out so great. And he says there's no consensus about not sending, then every single country in NATO answered him with a no, we're not sending anybody. So looks like there's a consensus about Western troops in Ukraine, and that consensus is no. And then, to make matters worse, because it's definitely a threat towards the Russians, you know how Russians react to threats. They tend to escalate things very quickly. That's just the way it is. So, your friend Macron over here, who clearly will not be in the front line if there was ever a war, no one's confusing him with Alexander the Great. It's like he forgot what year it was, man. It's like it's not 1983 anymore, man. So anyway, fast forward to 2024, the Russians start rattling the nuclear saber. And that's something you just don't do with the Russians. You don't make threats against that country. Some countries you just don't screw around with. Hey, let's take a quick look at the map over here. See where Russia is? Way over here? Yeah, Russia, Ukraine. Look where France is. Yeah, the furthest possible spot you can be in Europe. So, if there's a war, France is way over here. Where's Macron going to be? Yeah, I got a feeling he's hiding over here in Paris, because like I said, no one's confusing him with Alexander the Great. You know, if they sent the leader to go out in front of the army, I bet we wouldn't have any more wars, right? Well, you might have a few here and there. I can see Putin probably getting on a horse and leading a charge, but yeah, Macron, please be quiet, man. Okay? Somebody give him some pudding or something. Tell him to be quiet. Ugh, it's always the guy furthest away who talks about fighting in a war. Never fails. Now, if you think the Russian response, screaming about a nuclear retaliation should that scenario come to pass, is insane, let me present Exhibit A. Okay, you think it's crazy, they think it's normal. They actually had a plan to use nuclear weapons for an advance into Germany. All right, you say NATO would never start anything. Well, Macron just shot his mouth off. And 7 days to the Rhine, look what that's predicated on. Yeah, a NATO first strike on Poland. Yeah, you say that sounds crazy. After Macron shot his mouth off, suddenly you start wondering about it. So, 7 days to the Rhine was absolute and complete insanity. This was the plan. NATO launches nuclear attacks on Poland so that Soviet and Warsaw Pact forces are cut off in Germany, and then NATO attacks into East Germany. You say, oh, this could never happen. Again, reference Macron's remarks earlier. That's why you don't say stuff like that, because the propaganda about Western aggression starts to look true. And then you start walking towards something like this. And it doesn't matter if it's insane or not, as Buddy just like to jump off the counter. It doesn't matter if it's insane or not, because the weapons are coming down on you, right? We've gone beyond sanity at this point. So the scenario was that NATO would launch nuclear strikes on Poland and try to attack East Germany. But before that could happen, the Soviet Union would immediately retaliate with nuclear strikes on Denmark, West Germany, Netherlands, Belgium. They might hit Luxembourg. I don't know. It's too small. And yes, they're going to pop Austria too. And now it gets crazier, because then after they nuke this place they want to control, they're supposed to rampage through, and in 1 week, operating in a nuclear environment, I might add, they're supposed to be on the Rhine. Notice they're avoiding Britain and France, right? Because these are independent nuclear arsenals, so they figure if they don't hit them, there's no retaliation coming. Well, there are British forces in West Germany, so if you vaporize them, the British are getting involved. The French might get involved too. And if you start dropping nukes, everything escalates very quickly. I had one of my professors tell me once there was a 44-step process to nuclear escalation. I dutifully wrote it down, but I also wrote underneath, wrong. There's about 2 steps. They launch at us, we launch back. That's where it goes. Oh my God. And somebody, somewhere, thought this was a workable plan. That's what's terrifying. They even made a board game out of this. Yeah, I can't find it anywhere. I was looking around. Somebody said they had a copy for $70. I wasn't spending that much. I'm thinking like 20. So if you see it around someplace, hey, shoot me a link down there in the comments. So anyone who actually believed in this plan, did they think this is how it was going to end? Right? No, it's not going to end like this. It's going to end like that. Everyone's going to die. And the scary thing about 7 days to the Rhine is that was just part 1. Because if France and Britain did get involved, they're going to nuke France and Britain. And then they had this crazy belief they could be in the Pyrenees in another week. So yeah, 2 weeks to the edge of Spain. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work that way, man. You know, and somebody somewhere thought it could, or else it wouldn't have been there. What a terrifying planet we live on. This is why aliens don't make contact. Now, there's the probable advances into West Germany, just in case you were wondering what a non-nuclear conflict would have looked like. Still pretty bad, but there's still a planet afterwards. Fairly predictable. I don't know about this stuff up here, though. Arcing around, trying to cut people into pockets. I guess that could work. They're not going to get very far here, though. You know that. All the mountains and stuff there. But as long as they cut everyone off up here in the northern plains, yeah, they'll just starve everybody out down south. But that never happened. But we can always play board games and see how it goes. Hey, just in case there's a nuclear exchange, I got something for you to do. Why don't you pick up my book, Heaven Steel, on lulu.com. If there's a nuclear exchange and civilization is over, you got something to do, because I got a feeling the internet's going to be down forever. Just a little advice there for your pal, Mr. H. I make $1.12 if you buy a copy. Hey, does this look familiar? Looks like a T-Rex skull. Yeah, I don't blame you for thinking that, because it's very close to a T-Rex skull. Nope, it's Tarbosaurus. Lives over in Mongolia. Tarbosaurus Batar. Batar means hero, Mongol word. Tyrannosaurus rex is, larger, obviously, and a little bit more, shall I say, developed, because it's a bigger animal, more muscular. Some people tried to say Tarbosaurus and Tyrannosaurus were the same animal, because there appears to be some temporal overlap. Tarbosaurus is over there in Mongolia, is where they find most of the remains, while Tyrannosaurus, of course, in North America. And you're wondering, how do they exist at the same time? Well, it's a long distance from Mongolia to Western North America, even with the land bridge. And maybe the dating isn't exactly 100% on. But they are definitely different animals. Not just size, but the skull, too. The Tyrannosaurus has eyes a little bit more forward, a binocular vision. Tarbosaurus does not have the binocular vision, so there might be some problems there looking straight ahead. But, you know something? It's still pretty big, And if you see this, does it matter if it's Tyrannosaurus or Tarbosaurus? I mean, is it really going to matter? Because at the end of the day, it's the teeth you got to worry about. It also appears that Tarbosaurus has a few more teeth, which is stranger considering it's a smaller animal. But hey, nothing else to do out in the Gobi Desert, so I might as well count teeth of the dinosaur skull you just found. Tyrannosaurus, North American, hung around in the apparently upland forests, pine forests, and things like that. Kind of think Canadian Rockies kind of environment. It appears Tarbosaurus like to hang around swamps and rivers. Again, it's a little bit smaller, but still pretty big. No evidence that it ate a lot of fish, but this thing's going after sauropods and anything near the water, because just like lions, they're going to hang around where the water is. They go after whatever's there. They found teeth marks in some sauropods that match up to Tarbosaurus. They found some other kind of ceratopsins, unidentified, but they are definitely ceratopsins with the horns and everything. So it's kind of what you see in Asia is what you're going to see in North America. I'm really convinced Tarbosaurus is an ancestor to Tyrannosaurus, but it hung around because I guess it was very successful back in Mongolia. So it's going to hang around as long as it can. Mongolia is very proud of the Tarbosaurus. It's their treasure. They had a stamp like this for a very long time, very old school. So they decided to, update the stamp back in 2014. Do you know it is illegal to take any fossil remains of Tarbosaurus outside of Mongolia? Any other one they don't care about, but don't mess with Tarbosaurus. There it is up here in Russian. Tarbosaurus Batar, right? Hero. So this is the kind of dinosaur Genghis Khan would have hung out with. So two things Mongolia is very proud of. Genghis Khan and Tarbosaurus. Two really good things there. Huh? I don't blame them. I always like this picture here. Tarbosaurus, maybe Tyrannosaurus, just kind of out there for a stroll. I'm trying to look at the eyes, right? See if they're binocular vision so I can see if it's Tyrannosaurus or Tarbosaurus. I can't really tell. And the environment I'm looking around is sort of deserty, so they're supposed to make you think it's Mongolia. But remember what we just said, right? Likes to hang around in swamps and rivers. So maybe a couple juvenile T-Rexes out there for a stroll, looking for something to eat out there. Hopefully not headed for Burger King. Believe me, you're better off fighting it out with a Triceratops. So I was thinking the other day about some of those long-gone football leagues. One was the original USFL from way back in 1983. And, whoops, what's going on over there? Looks like they, Mr. H do something again. Hadn't done anything. Not recently, anyway. All right, they seem to be going away. That's good. Got some fire trucks zipping around today. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's happy about Friday. But I digress. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Express / Distress. You'll see why I call them that. They played in the original USFL way back in 1983. That was my team. That was my USFL team because the Pittsburgh Maulers didn't come around until 1984. And they shut them down after 1 year. But I really like the Los Angeles Express. And, wow, that was a bad team to pick. Their very first game was a 2015 victory over the New Jersey Generals. How about that? Nice looking uniform there. What's that? Has a Dallas Cowboy look? Yeah. Get out of here, man. I don't need you here. Yeah, grab the donuts and go, right? So that was their very first game. I actually remember seeing the very back end of it, so 20-15. The LA Express was 8-10. They played 18 game schedules there in that USFL. They played. They were 8-10 the first year, 10-8 the next year, made the playoffs, and then lost in the playoffs. And then a horrific 3-15 campaign in 1985. 1984, they got their quarterback they're looking for, Steve Young. There again, they're playing against New Jersey Generals again. Hey, what do you notice about this this picture here? Something you should notice right off the bat? Yeah, there's nobody in the seats. Yeah, that was a bit of a problem the LA Distress had over here. They never got really big crowds. It's just, I don't know, it just never seems to work out very well over there for some pro teams. Even the Raiders, when they played there, would rarely sell out the Coliseum. The Rams are there for a long time. You know they left, right? Came back again briefly until they built SoFi. But the the USFL was actually okay with attendance. I mean, they're hitting 25, 30,000 people a game, but not in LA, man. But LA, the 1984, like I said, their second year, 10-8, they won what was called the Pacific Division. They went into their first playoff game there against the defending champion Michigan Panthers. It's played in LA. Two things you should notice right off the bat. You already know one. Yeah, see, empty seats again. 100,000 seat stadium, 8,000 people there for that game. Yeah, see, that's why they're becoming the LA Distress. What's the second thing you notice? Yeah, LA's wearing white at home. You know how Mr. H feels about that. Don't like teams wearing white at home. It's just something I don't like. But hey, it was the longest game ever in football history. It's not recognized by the NFL because it wasn't in the NFL, but it did happen. 3 overtimes. Yeah, I didn't catch this one. I could have been doing any number of things. I think I went to high school at the beginning of the game and graduated at the end of it. Not really sure. Certainly long enough. 3 overtimes. So if you're one of those 8,000 people watching that game, got your money's worth. Like I said, here's part of the problem. They play in the LA Coliseum. 100,000 people. They renovated downward to 80,000 a couple years ago. But at that time, 100,000 seat stadium. Even if you got 50,000 people, which is a good crowd, it's only half full. Yeah, and they had 8,000 for that playoff game. So you just imagine what that was like. At one point, Steve Young, I saw read later, said he had to whisper the plays in that game because the Michigan Panthers could hear him. So, yeah, just too big of a stadium. But the LA Distress in 1985 went totally downhill. 84 had a good year, playoff team. 85, everything just went right down the crapper for him. Everything, man. The team just stank. People got injured. Some people didn't come back because the USFL was going to try and jump to spring and didn't to fall and didn't make it. And the owner got indicted for fraud of some kind, so the league had to step in and run the LA team. At one point, the payroll was running short, but they managed to scramble and get it together. But they couldn't pay the rent for the Coliseum, so they got thrown out of the rent. They got thrown out of the Coliseum. Couldn't make the rent, man. Is it a payroll or the rent, right? So the final game for the LA Distress was played at Pierce Community College. I'm not even sure this is the actual stadium. There are three of them, but I think this one was it. And it was a sellout crowd. You can't help but be a sellout crowd when there's like, what, 1,000 seats there? Plus, they just gave all the tickets away because everybody knew it was over. And this game almost didn't happen because the bus driver, who was taking the team over to the game, yeah, he refused to drive the bus unless he got paid cash up front. So Steve Young nearly ended up driving the bus to the LA Distress's final game. Oh, man, only in America, man. You couldn't make this stuff up. Well, I'm running off today. I hope you have a fantastic Friday. I've given you a bunch of stuff to talk about and impress people wherever you might be, at parties, in the line, arresting officer, whatever's going on out there. You guys have a great day. Keep it safe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take a look at my book, Heaven Steel, while you're at it. And I will see you next Friday. Have a great day. Das vidanya.